Welcome to the Intuitive Therapist Podcast with Janis R. Cohen, therapist, clairvoyant, empath, and medium. Listen in as she takes a no-nonsense deep dive into real human struggles and how to resolve them. Janis will share channeled information from her spirit guide team, as well as the angels and archangels, to help you master your emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual destiny. And now, Janis R. Cohen.
Hey y'all, this is Janis Cohen, the Intuitive Therapist here on the Intuitive Therapist Podcast. So, would you believe the title of today's episode is a quote from Dolly Parton? Find out who you are and do it on purpose. Well, it is, and it makes sense, doesn't it? I've been thinking about what it takes to know who you are a lot these days, and then simply be that, right? Intentionally and on purpose. I wasn't taught anything about getting to know myself, nor was I taught about what it means to be myself, let alone doing it purposely, right? I don't know about you, but back in in my generation in the 70s, when I was raised, we just didn't talk about those kind of things. My parents' generation, as I've mentioned to you in my a couple of podcasts ago, they weren't the generation to talk about dating or sex or drugs or abuse or spirituality or how to find out who you are and be that with confidence and intention. It was pretty much all about survival and not repeating the patterns of their past, right? The patterns that their parents did. So I had to figure out who I am and how to do it on purpose on my own. And I think most of us do that. But my question for you today is, what needs to happen for it to be true that you really do know yourself? I'm going to say it again. What needs to happen for it to be true? Because people say they know themselves all the time, and they really kind of don't. And what does it take for you to decide to be that truest version of yourself on purpose? In other words, what needs to happen in order for you to show up in your truth intentionally? If you silence yourself, censor yourself, or respond the way others want you to respond, well, that's not being yourself, is it? If you keep the previous generation's way of doing things and don't do things the way you know they can and could be done, the way you want to do them, well, do you really know yourself then? And can you possibly act in the way of your true self, in the way that it would act on purpose? Likely not. So, what prevents people from not knowing who they truly are? And what's the cost of you not knowing that and not acting from your true, authentic self? Why do you keep playing small? What's keeping you from pursuing your dreams and a life you know you deserve? What holds you back from being you and doing it on purpose? Well, in today's episode, I'm going to tackle these questions. You see, if you're not honest with yourself, and yes, that's a marker that you know yourself well, right? Sorry, if you are honest with yourself, that's a marker. It's likely that you fear being judged by others, right? I think most of us at some point fear that, right? If you're honest with yourself, then you're seeing all parts of you. And if you're honest with yourself that you're not showing up in your truth, it's likely because you fear being judged by others. Maybe you fear you'll get hurt or somebody will try to embarrass you or shame you for being your unique self. Or are you scared to fail if the real you shows up? If you ignore your own needs, you're not being your true self. If you look to others for approval, you're not being your true self. If you step into your bravery, though, stop apologizing for what you want and need and just merely existing, right? And you stand your ground without contempt. I've talked about this before. Then you're being yourself, right? But how does a person all of a sudden start to be themselves, their true selves, and act that way on purpose when they've spent most of their lives not. You see, being unapologetically you is about connecting with your deepest, truest self. And that may sound hokey, but here's what your deepest, truest self is. You know what you value. You know what you need and why. You have tangible dreams and ambitions. That's how you know that you know yourself. You're really clear on all of those things. And it wasn't until I was 52, that's 3 years ago, that I can truly say I knew myself and I was entirely comfortable with being myself. No apologies, no second guessing. I'm not being polite and quiet when I want to speak my mind, and I'm not denying anything I want in any part of my life. It's like I've come into my own. Now, that sounds great, right? Being able to do all that. But I couldn't have possibly known who I was at any other point in my life if I hadn't gone through experiences that forced me to learn what I wanted and what I didn't want, and experiences that forced me to decide to have boundaries for myself and towards others. Those are huge. The boundaries you decide to have. And you could decide them and not stand firm in them, or if you know yourself well, you will have decided, and that's it. This is how it is for you. And likely that's what's happening with you if you're coming into your own, right? If you know yourself well. So if you do know yourself well, and if you're showing up in your truest, highest sense of self, and you're doing it on purpose, what are you actually thinking on a regular basis? That version of you. What do you choose to feel on a regular basis? What actions do you take on a regular basis that signals to you that you know yourself completely and you're acting in your truth on a daily and momentary basis? To me, as I completely embody my truth now at this point in my life, at 55, I don't say yes when I mean no. I don't hesitate to ask for what I want. I don't avoid dealing with hard things because I know where I stand with myself. I'm going to say that one again because this is huge. I don't avoid dealing with hard things because I know where I stand with myself. That includes what I value, what I believe, what I know for me, my boundaries, right? And so when I got my back 100% of the time, I can deal with anything. And I know how I filter things. And if I'm filtering it through an unhealthy filter, I can check myself because I'm aware of the thoughts that I have and I'm aware of the feelings that I have. But if you aren't aware of a filter that you have that causes you to twist those in a toxic way, you better get to know yourself, right? Because that's not your truth. Those are just beliefs you have. And those beliefs reinforce your inability to stand in your truth, to make calls in your favor, to have boundaries, to call someone out. That's how you know yourself, when you can do those things. But you can do it in a graceful way without malice or vengeance. I don't go places I don't want to go. I'm not around people I don't want to be around. I can say, nope, that is not for me. And I'm good with that. Here's the thing. I don't practice small talk. I cannot stand it. So if you can't get deep with me, I'm not interested. That's why I don't go a lot of places and I'm not around a lot of people, even though I enjoy people very, very much. But if I have to small talk with a whole bunch of people throughout the night, I'd rather be home. These are just some of the things that let me know that I'm being me and that I come with absolutely no apologies. And when I say no apologies and being unapologetically you, I don't mean with your middle finger up. That's not what I mean, but I mean with a sense of certainty and a sense of calm that no matter what, you're not going to apologize for whether it's interrupting or sharing your opinion or making this choice versus that choice, and because somebody else doesn't agree. You just do you. So let me ask you, how are you being yourself and living your truth on purpose. I wish you a blessed day, a wonderful week, and as always, live intuitively.
Thanks for listening to The Intuitive Therapist. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend. And be sure to give us some stars and a favorable review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.